The Toronto Blue Jays won an absolutely insane game yesterday against the Los Angeles Angels, and the comeback was fueled by none other than Matt Chapman and Kevin Kiermaiers. So we'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as a Ricky Tiedemann injury update. So all that and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And if you saw that game yesterday, you were in luck because it's an early candidate for Game of the Year. And we'll get into it pretty shortly. But wow, Nick, that game was just a roller coaster of emotions. Crazy comeback. They were down 6-0, and just what a way to gut out that win. I think the Blue Jays from last season probably start the season 4-6 or 3-7. But this team has something different about them.
Yeah, and if you want to check out our immediate reaction right after the game or kind of first impressions, you can check out our live stream from yesterday. It's still up. But yeah, we're going to be, analyzing a bit more and discussing some of the other things that were impressive because it was hard to do yesterday. Before we dig into that, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 7K, and your support has been unbelievable as the Blue Jays have continued to winning 4 of their last 5. But let's get into the first topic now, which is Chapman is insane. And Peter, I'll let you touch on Matt Chapman's impact not only yesterday, but throughout the whole season. I'll just let you take the floor here as I pop up the box score, and he once again went 3 for 5 with 5 RBIs.
Yeah, he's so locked in at the plate right now. His discipline has always been off the charts. He's always been a guy that's able to take some walks, and despite his strikeout numbers, his high strikeout numbers, he's able to see those pitches and work the counts and have positive at-bats for his team. And that was not something that was wrong with him last year. The big problem last year was that he had a hole in his swing, and whenever you would challenge him up, he would be vulnerable to that pitch. And now he's starting to use the entire field. And that home run that he hit yesterday, that kind of started the comeback, and we'll see it right here. That's to right center field. That's the power alley for right-handed hitters. And he has been using that so well to start off the season. In the first 10 games, he's hitting almost 500. He's been the hottest hitter in all of Major League Baseball. All the talk before the season started was about Addison Barger and if he can replace Matt Chapman starting next season. But I think now the talk has shifted to, can the Blue Jays retain Matt Chapman? Should they retain him? And should they give him all the money that he wants?
Yeah, and like you said, that's a very good point. Even our conversation has shifted a bit from at the start of the season, not as much of a conversation, but now he's not only playing himself into a great contract, he might be playing himself out of the Blue Jays price range, and that's something that I'm sure we'll be discussing throughout the season. But like you said, he was absolutely unbelievable, both on the offensive and defensive end throughout the season. And ever since that one error in, I believe it was the first game or second game of the season, he has been flawless as a player, and that's not something you can say for really many other players aside from, I don't know, only a couple players around the MLB. But looking at some of the other guys, George Springer, Bo Bichette, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., did they impress you yesterday? I'm sure Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been seeing the ball as good as anyone, and we'll also touch on Kevin Kiermaiers in a different section. But anyone else impress you besides Matt Chapman?
Yeah, Vladdy's just locked in at the plate as well, and that top four, that top five, I should say, has been carrying the Blue Jays thus far in the opening portion of the year. Because if you pop up that box score one more time, look at the averages on the right hand side for those top 5 hitters. Very good, and you might even argue some of the best numbers that we've ever seen to start a season for not just Blue Jays but for major league players in general. And then you look at the right hand side from 6 all the way down to 9. It's not great. You see a lot of averages below the Mendoza line. Whit Merrifield is starting to come into his own. He's an impact player, but man, I mean the bottom half of the order has just been anemic thus far to start the season, but the top half has been carrying shouldering the load to start the year, and I've been so impressed with the approaches that I've seen from everybody. I mean, they've been grinding out at bats. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. looks better than he ever has, and this is a guy that would have won an MVP if not for Shohei Ohtani. So I'm very impressed. Hopefully the pitching can iron itself out, but man, you got to be excited about this lineup.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll touch on the bottom half in a second. But like you said, even Dalton Varsho, he obviously went 1 for 4 yesterday, but he just makes such an impact that even if he goes 1 for 4, he's such a big positive to the team. And I'm glad you pointed out Whit Merrifield. He's looking good now. He's looking very, very solid. I think that he can go on a hot streak and easily get upwards of 280, 290 very, very quickly. And
he's playing every day too.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's what's helping him out here.
Yeah, and touching on the bottom half, let's get into Kevin Kiermaiers' impact now. We can also touch on some of the other guys and some of the disappointments. But focusing on Kevin Kiermaier, what a game from him. And ever since he joined the Blue Jays, his attitude has been one of the best on the team. And he's a game changer, and it's someone that we didn't even think was necessarily going to be our everyday center fielder when we first signed him, but I am glad that he is now.
Wow, what a pickup that was. And he exceeded my expectations already. And
Yeah,
we're
same.
10 games into the season. This guy has just been unbelievable. Just a combination of his base running, his ability to grind out at bats, and don't even get me started on his defense out there in center field. It's all world. He's probably the best defensive center fielder that's ever suited up for the Blue Jays. All due respect to Kevin Pillar and all those great outfielders in the 90s on the World Series winning teams, but this guy is just different. And from what I've seen with my own eyes, wow, what an impact he's had. And we didn't like him on the Rays because he would terrorize the Blue Jays. He would make those spectacular catches and would rob so many home runs and so many hits, and it was a terror to play Kevin Kiermaier, and he was a black hole out there. Everything hit to him would disappear into his glove, and that's the kind of player that he is. And when he's doing what he's doing right now with the bat, this guy's unstoppable. I mean, I don't expect him to hit 400 over the course of a season, but look at that triple. That was a total. That was the double right there. But he also hit a triple
Yeah,
to tie up the game at 6.
so many
So this
clutch
is
moments
your
out of
not
him.
yeah, this is your 9 hitter in extra innings who's hitting a double to put you ahead and keep the rally going. That's unheard of. He wants to be the best 9 hitter in the league, and so far he has been.
Yeah, and I meant to get the triple, but we'll just roll with the double as well because it was almost just as clutch to help them, obviously. And they ended up scoring 2 more runs, which ultimately won them the game. But like you said, the triple with 2 outs. Every time he goes up to bat, and you can see here he's hitting 400. He had 3 hits. He had 5 RBIs. Again, him and Chapman both had 5. It's just, I don't know, unbelievable. And it's kind of crazy to think that he's been probably our third or fourth best player, but everyone on the team is just doing so well, and it's absolutely just great to see, especially from the hitting side. And I don't know, obviously there's some struggles. Danny Jansen, both of our catchers, as good as we've expected them to be, have not been very good so far, which has been unfortunate, but I expect them to pick up. But overall, very exciting. And I guess let's move in now to the pitching, which has been a bit different. The pitching struggled a little bit, and I'll put up Yusei Kikuchi's line here, and it's hard because he gave up a lot of runs. The ERA is inflated, but I don't think he pitched as bad as the line said. He didn't have a great game. Of course, he gave up 3 home runs, but the defense let him down, or at least the sun let him down at the very least. But what did you see out of the pitchers today? Of course, Romano ended up getting the win, but he did blow his first save of the season, but he'll be fine. Overall, though, a pretty rough game for the pitching staff.
I thought the middle relief and then getting into the high leverage was very good. Zach Pop is quietly playing himself into a high leverage situation role for the Toronto Blue Jays. He's been so good out of the bullpen. He's not a strikeout guy, but his ground ball rate is over 63% now. So that'll play in any ballpark that you're in. And his velocity is another wrinkle. His sinker is just great. So I've loved what I've seen out of him. Adam Simber, a good bounce back appearance after giving up that home run to Mike Trout the day before. And Jimmy Garcia, this guy has just
Dominant,
been
yeah.
dominant. Eric Swanson too. He looked okay. He's been pretty good to start off the year. And Jordan Romano, things happen with those closers. It's not too big of a concern for me. It happens. He was already the league leader in saves, so I guess he was due to blow one, but thankfully it didn't cost him.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people were scared about Romano. He has games. We've seen this in the past, and most closers do, besides maybe a couple that have just blow up days. And he didn't have his fastball control or command at all. He had the velocity, but the command wasn't there, which ultimately led him to blow the save. But yeah, like you said, Adam Simber, of course, he gave up the big home run yesterday. Very good out of him. And he's been good throughout the season so far, aside from that blow up game yesterday where he gave up the home run. And to be honest, he was put in a very tough situation nonetheless. But like you said, Zach Pop has been dominant, and I think he's slowly playing himself up. And quick shout out to Trevor Richards and Tim Meza. A lot of people were, going at Trevor Richards. I think he did a fairly good job. I don't know how you feel about it, Peter. I thought he did a pretty good job given
Put
the
in a tough
situation.
spot. He was
Very,
put in a
very tough
spot.
spot. He got 2 outs. He has to face Mike Trout. He'd made the right decision to end up walking him, and Tim Meza ended up doing fine. But on the Kikuchi end, I'm not taking too much into this game. Obviously, we'll see how he bounces back next game. It was just a weird situation. He should have got out of the first inning unscathed, and then from there, who knows how he would have done. But do you have any quick final touches on Kikuchi before we move on and wrap up?
Yeah, that's the thing. He got pretty unlucky to start off this game, and who knows what would have happened.
Exactly,
You're
yeah,
right.
exactly.
If he did get out of that first inning 1, 2, 3, or just giving
Whatever it
up
was,
that
yeah.
one base runner, yeah, it was Mike Trout, the base runner. Then maybe things would have gone differently. He didn't walk many. He only walked one. 9 hits is a little bit worrisome, but again, a couple of those hits would not have happened had he gotten out of that first inning. So he did burn along a home run ball because he was serving up pitches over the middle of the plate, and that's got to iron itself out. But I've been happy with the control and the reduced amount of walks out of Yusei Kikuchi so far. I'm not gonna say he's the savior of the rotation and say that he's primed for an all-star level season, but I also don't think that he's going to be as bad as he was last year. And any sort of improvement is welcomed for
Yeah.
this Blue Jays rotation here.
His stuff looked fine. His command was
Yeah.
it was there in the sense of he wasn't walking people, but he left a couple middle cut. But continuing on the pitcher talk, I'll actually, before we wrap it up, talk about Ricky Tiedemann. We haven't spoken about him in a while. He's been injured, but maybe he makes an impact this year, especially with the struggling rotation that we've been experiencing so far. But this is an update from Shadavidi saying top Blue Jays prospect Tiedemann on track to make season debut at AA Hampshire this week. Likely a 3 to 4 inning outing for the 20-year-old lefty, and not much more than that in starts to follow, as his workload will be closely managed early to get him wire to wire. Do you have any thoughts on this? It's great to see him back out there, and I don't know if he's going to make an impact for the Blue Jays this season or at least anytime soon. Maybe a September call-up, or who knows, maybe he gets the Alek Manoah treatment and gets sent out there early. However, he does not have the load that Alek Manoah was put under before getting called up. But do you have any quick thoughts on this before we wrap up? I just wanted to throw that in there.
I think out of necessity, the Blue Jays might have to call him up,
I saw that as well on
and
Twitter, yeah.
and just because of how the rotations performed thus far. And I know it's only 10 games into the season and we're judging it off a small sample size, but it isn't a small sample size. I mean, Jose Barrios hasn't looked like himself for the better part of a season and a bit. And Yusei Kikuchi has not shown the ability to be consistent over 162. Chris Bassett, I think he'll be
I
fine
agree.
in the regular
I agree.
season, but his stuff is not exceptional. And come playoff time, you can't go through the entire postseason if you want to make a run with just two starters, and Alek Manoah and Kevin Gausman. So out of necessity, I think Ricky Tiedemann might have to play a role if Jose Barrios and Yusei Kikuchi can't be consistent throughout the rest of the season. And
Yeah,
and I think the Blue Jays don't want to have to do it. They don't want to rush Tiedemann up. But this is a good chance to win with the current roster that you've built. And if that's what you got to do, you got to do it.
I think there's a higher chance, yeah, now that there was before. And I also think that they're going to be
Yeah.
targeting starting pitchers, a lot of them, at the trade deadline. And I expect them to make 1 to 2 moves. And who knows, maybe they empty their prospects, besides obviously Ricky Tiedemann, and go for one of the higher end starters like the Seattle Mariners did just a year ago. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. If you think Ricky Tiedemann will be called up, and your reaction to the potential game of the year as it's titled in the video. But thank you guys for watching. Support's been unbelievable. We'll see you guys tomorrow for the home opener.
Thanks.